Welcome to the Straight Out of Home Video podcast, part of the Geeky Waffle Network.
Hello and welcome to Straight Out of Home Video. I'm Vanessa and with me is Candace.
Hello.
And special guest Alex, my husband.
Hello, everybody.
And today we are discussing Johnny Tsunami. Now we can say aloha.
Aloha, yes. The 1999 classic DCOM. This was one of my faves.
This was one that I knew by name, but I actually hadn't seen before, at least not to my knowledge.
And it's also one of my childhood favorites coming up, which is why our conversation spun into another viewing. And I don't think I invited myself on, but I think just an invitation to come and chat about one of the all-time greats, and also one of the ones that I think really kicked off the kind of next generation in the Disney Channel movies.
Yeah, definitely. This is Kirsten Storm's DCOM tour. Like, she was in Xenon. She was in a few other Kim Possible. She's just everywhere, this girl. Like, this is like what I feel like the early 2000s, 1999 time was.
Yeah, I did not know that Kirsten Storms was in this until I just saw the screenshot from the Disney Plus. And I realized that, oh, wow, I didn't realize that she was in the Disney verse as much as this.
Yeah,
and they had,
was she in anything else after Xenon?
She did the two sequels.
And she was in Kim Possible. She was Bonnie, right?
Yeah, Bonnie, yeah.
Bonnie.
Oh, I didn't know she was Bonnie.
Yes, the voice of Bonnie. We also have...
She was in That's So Raven and a few other things she's guest starred in. So she was DCOM queen.
Yeah, and we also have Lee Thompson-Young, who is Sam Sterling in this movie, but he is Jet Jackson.
Action Jet Jackson.
I had such a crush on him. Famous Jet Jackson. He was just so cool, you know?
Mm-hmm. And
he was actually... original Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and this was actually his first credit.
Was it? I thought he was doing Jet Jackson by then.
Well, no, Jet Jackson came on a little bit later on, I think.
Oh, wait, never mind. Well, it's his first credit. I'm sorry. So I'm reading it as his first credit, but that's because Jet Jackson was in 1998 and then it went to 2001, and they always do that where they end. But either way, this was like a year after Jet Jackson, and Jet Jackson was his first thing, and then this was so this was his second thing. But yeah, that was interesting to see him in this as well.
Yes.
But anyway,
sadly, he passed away 10 years ago.
I know.
And his family created a fund, the Lee Thompson-Young Foundation. So it's to help remove the stigma surrounding mental illness, which just got to give that a little shout out because I always think of him.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and he was such an icon for our generation because of Jet Jackson.
I can't wait till we do that movie. I love that Jet Jackson movie. That was so good.
But Johnny Tsunami is basically about this boy who lives in Hawaii. He loves surfing. His grandfather is like this world-class surfer. So he lives with his mom and dad, and his dad never really quite got into the surfing thing, and he definitely has some issues so he has a job in the tech world, which I guess is just setting up networks for schools, which, actually a pretty respectable job. But because of that, they have to move to the East Coast of the U.S. and
Vermont.
To Vermont specifically, which is obviously insanely different from Hawaii. And I will say that Johnny Tsunami, his name is not Johnny, but Johnny, the kid, he is very cool about this. Like, I feel like this child should be way angrier about a lot of the stuff that his dad puts him through.
Would you say he goes with the flow?
Yes.
I feel like they didn't have time, but did you guys ever see, it's a movie called Airborne that came out in 1993, but they played it on Disney Channel a lot. And it's about this kid who lives in California. He surfs all the time. He's a skateboarder. And then his parents have to do something in a different country. So he gets sent to his aunt and uncle in the Midwest. And he has to learn how to ski or snowboard.
So it's the same thing.
I vaguely remember something like that. I don't think
Seth Green is in it.
Seth Green's in it.
Yeah, he plays his cousin. Yeah, actually went out. It actually came to theaters, but it was played on DCOM so often that everyone just thought it was a Disney Channel. Like
Yeah.
every
Right.
it was
It was
played
played
on
on
Disney Channel
Disney.
so
Yeah.
often, like a
Yeah.
DCOM. Oh, and Jack Black plays one of the bullies in that.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we might need to just watch it to
So we've
compare.
yeah. So, and when did that come out?
1993.
1993. Okay.
And which of the sage wisdom characters in Airborne was also in 1995's Mortal Kombat? Because
that's-
one thing that when we were going over everybody's previous acting history, forgot to jump in and mention that the grandfather is actually Shang Tsung from the original Mortal Kombat, as well as the Mortal Kombat X TV series.
Yeah.
Which is also why I saw him. I was like, oh my God, it's my guy. I'm also a big Mortal Kombat fan. Sorry.
Yeah. Kerry Hiyaki Chagwa, he is a actor who's been in so many things.
Yep.
He actually he voices my favorite Star Wars character's father. So the father of my favorite character, Sabine Wren, and Star Wars Rebels. So that's just a little
yeah.
Star Wars, tying it into Space Waffles, but he's been in a lot of things.
He has.
Like-
That's the thing. I didn't see that because I just saw that he had 138 credits, and I'm like, I cannot go through all of this right now. But
He was in the James Bond film License to Kill. He was in The Last Emperor, Memoirs of a Geisha. Just like a very prolific career that I'm surprised even in 1999 he was doing a Disney Channel movie. Maybe he just wanted to go to Hawaii.
I think he's and also just add world champion surfer to his list, because obviously for him and the other actors in the movie, aside from some scenes with the stunts, everybody got to learn how to surf pretty successfully.
Yeah. Oh my God, the stunts. There are sometimes so the kids are 12, 13. And those are grown adults as their stunt doubles.
yes, absolutely.
Also, at one point, I like that the snowboarding guy, I'm like, that is a white man. Like subbing for this half
That's just
Hawaiian
a solar
kid.
flare. It's all camera effects. Look, when I snowboard, I'm at least 5 inches taller.
And just brolier and just like have a full beard. No, he didn't have a beard or anything.
I'm stocky to start, so that difference isn't as noticeable with me, but I can understand the conflict on the late 90s DCOM stage.
Yeah.
They tried.
I think they tried, but also it was just like they had to use so many stunt people. I feel that had to have gotten expensive, so they had to do what they could.
Well, I mean, it's like any budget. If you don't max out your budget, then they're not going to give you as much the next time. So they're just like, listen, this is a really, really simple movie. It's a little Soch versus Greaser. We're just having a lot of arguments in school hallways, but we need to throw in some big effects and some big stunts.
Yeah. And it was really impressive. I'm going to say that. And I guess the whole thing that we didn't say was the fact that he's not Johnny Tsunami. The grandpa is technically Johnny Tsunami.
Well, I mean, Johnny did win the medal in the end. So.
That's true. But
yeah, he said, you are like the next Johnny Tsunami.
Yes. But he tries to learn to snowboard because it's not exactly similar to surfing, but he just has to get out there and really do something that makes him happy, because surfing was his big thing in Hawaii. And the school that he goes to is this prep school, and there's this whole dichotomy of the prep school people versus the public school people, and skiing is the prep school version. So apparently that's cooler than snowboarding. I don't really understand exactly how we got there, but that's
first off, it's skies and urchins.
Urchins. Yeah. So the Skyline Academy, I forget what the thing is, but there's a story like 10 years ago, the family who owns the mountain like split up, and one of them like is just do snowboarding and the other is skiing, and there's a whole backstory to it. And of course, I don't know, the way they were saying urchins, I was like, damn, this feels racist. Like they were just really mean.
It was definitely classist.
It was definitely supposed
it
to
was
be.
like it was just like the way they were saying, like the kid who plays like the bully from the academy. I'm like, good on you, dude. You're playing into that stereotype. Great.
Brett.
Of course it was Brett.
Quick shout out for like when they confront them on the side of the mountain that has the best slopes, when Johnny's snowboarding with his grandpa, and they come over to like yell at him again, and older Johnny, Grandpa Johnny, Shang Tsung Johnny, goes and is like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you, Brett." He's like, "How do you know my name?" He's like, "Lucky guess, guy. I don't know. You look like a Brett, I guess."
Every kid was Brett at that time.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, it's just he actually like they get into a fight. I was shocked. They show like Johnny with like a bloody nose. Like
Yeah.
DCOM's got dark at this time.
Yeah, and it was I don't know. I felt like there were a lot of things in this movie that really made me upset, which was and that was one of the things was obviously just the prejudice against Johnny just for being different. And it's like, oh wow, you're in a preppy school, but you're wearing a fun shirt that every single other person outside that school was wearing.
Oh,
And
sorry. On that,
Yeah.
Johnny's first day at the school, the teacher, I mean, Johnny comes in and he didn't have his school uniform yet. So he comes in dressed like he dressed in Hawaii normally, maybe with a little bit more of longer sleeves. And, immediately Brett and all the preppy kids, all the skies start teasing him a little bit. And the teacher, in an attempt to kind of like welcome him in and like transition back into academics so that they can kind of continue with the lessons, like, tell me something about Hawaii, asking different students, and asks Brett, and Brett's like, I don't know, they wear stupid clothes, and the crowd just freaking loses it. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, I got dragged to Kohl's and Macy's and JCPenney every single year by my mom to go get school clothes and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, in the young adult section and in the regular adult section, the whole like, what is it, Quicksilver and all those winter sports and surf clothing brands, Axon, all these clothing brands, that plus Hawaiian shirts, that was the style in the 1990s. I mean, forgetting the ska in the movie in and of itself, the 90s was just a ska aesthetic. So that guy was dressed like a window model to me personally. So I don't know what they were mocking.
It's just Vanessa,
Just
we've seen this
difference
time and
of
time
it.
again. Just with the few movies that we've already seen, it's like kid gets taken out of their element.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then there's a bunch of mean kids who are mean to them. They have a love interest. This is just like Xenon, except that she went from a space station down to Earth.
Right.
Really? They made fun of her clothing because she's wearing like space clothing, and like she went horseback riding to learn what the Earth people do,
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about being different and not fitting in, and then trying to make everybody, now this cohesive whole instead of here, hold on one second. Iroh's trying to get in everything.
Kitty wants to be on the podcast too.
Well,
he always does.
I don't know how much you want to shift this podcast into crunchies, and why don't we have more of them? Tonight on Dateline.
More treats, please. Bucky will add to that. He's like, excuse me, I deserve more treats. Why we deserve more treats and why our owners suck about that.
Yeah.
They could have their own podcast.
Investigative journalism.
Yeah, humans be like, why do we not have thumbs to open treat bags? I was gonna say, yeah, it just feels like there's such a formula with most of these decoms, and freaking, we got the leprechaun episode, like
Luck of the Irish.
Yep.
It's just like it's about fitting in, which I guess was a big deal back then when you were a kid.
It still is, but I would like to think that maybe the separation of all of these different groups, like the clique stuff, does that happen still anymore?
I gotta be honest, I don't actually know. Most of the schools I went to are so big that it just kind of became like neighborhoods within the school. But I can understand in small towns or more homogenous areas that these kind of pecking orders can establish, and it probably still happens. But it's a tried and true formula, and Disney seems to, at least so far, figured out the exact way they want to go. Like, they dress differently, they talk differently, and it's a complete fish out of water situation. Pepper in at least one guardian figure that is completely disconnected and doesn't realize how detrimental any of this is. And
that was the whole thing, is that I feel like a lot of times in Disney movies, or really any movie that was aimed toward us as kids, that now when I watch it, I definitely get a little bit more of like where the parents are coming from. But this one, I was like, Dad,
I know where I was going to say, I know where the parents are coming from.
No, but I mean,
Dad's a dick.
But I mean, like, as in I usually sympathize with certain things that they have to do, you know,
That's-
choices they have to make. But he just
the dad was a dick, and then the only person who might have missed Johnny's grandfather more than Johnny was Johnny's mom, because like
Oh
It's-
yeah.
it's a polite nod, like when she's talking to Pete Tsunami, the father. But like in
Pete
every
Tsunami.
in every scene she is with Tsunami, it's at least one hand on the body. Like, you know, she's there, she saw, and she was happy, and she was like, listen, your dad's great.
They talked about like how something changed between them, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Is they gonna find out like she hooked up with the grandpa or something? Like, what's going on? I forgot.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It was so funny. It was funny because I didn't really realize that until he said something at the very beginning, and then every time after that, I was like, "Oh yeah, she really is kind of gravitating."
Johnny's not
toward
the
it.
only one who misses home, I'm telling you.
Because Grandpa Johnny's a hottie. Let's just be real, right there. He
Yeah,
looks good,
absolutely.
especially for that age. But the father says that man's a lunatic. And she's like, "Hey, I love that lunatic, and so does your son." And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just felt bad for the mom because she's just like having
She's-
to put up with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she definitely sees what's happening, and she's trying her best, but yeah, the dad is just very disconnected, and it just doesn't see it doesn't.
Well, and also at one point in the movie, I forget what the lead up to it was, but Pete was like, he's like, yeah, you know, like she was like, he's not going to spend as much time with his grandfather, or might never like see him at all anymore, and he's like, yeah, that's one of the best parts, and or something like that, and she just turns and was like, please don't tell me we moved to Vermont just so you could get him away from your father.
Yeah.
But
Which
it
it
was very
almost
clearly,
seems like
it very clearly is
he
that.
did do that because
Yeah.
again, he sets up these computer systems for the schools, and I don't really see why he had to move for this particular one because it sounded
Also, he's
like
doing it by himself? Question mark. Like he's always in like a
Whole
really
school.
gross power suit, and then just kind of like pokes his head in. There's never any other staff. I've never seen a computer in his hands outside of that one opening scene in Hawaii. So
Yeah,
like
that's
his
true.
whole role is very nebulous. It's unclear.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
says he's going to the computer classroom or something. Does that mean he's also teaching computer classes?
I can't.
I would
refuse
assume
to
I would
believe
assume
that.
not. I would
Or
just assume
computer
that
room.
he is just setting everything up for them.
How
but-
long does that take?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that it takes. I mean, you know, a whole system or whatever, a network, maybe that takes some time, especially back in the 90s. But again, not to justify an entire movie. That is expensive. That is disruptive to everybody's lives, and it
In the
sounds like
middle of
he
the
has
school
traveled.
year?
Yeah, and it sounds like he has traveled before to set up other systems,
Yeah.
or at least like do
I-
maybe smaller projects.
I was
but
about to say
still.
the language set up that kind of brought on the whole like we have to move premise. In my mind, I interpreted that as like this is the big one. Like we got the big contract that's really putting this like fledgling company on the map. And so I'm going to go and like oversee it personally, and it's going to be great. And it's going to take a super long time for no reason for a school of what appears to be literally 20 children.
Yeah. There's a few lunchroom scenes, and there's like a dozen or so kids there.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, but like the other thing I don't get, well, Vanessa and I saw this with 'Twas the Night. It's like these guys, the people writing this do not understand computers, especially not in
that's
like
true.
the early 2000s, late 90s.
I give a good pass. I give a good pass on anybody in these situations. Computers were not well understood unless you were like exclusively into computers at that point. Internet connectivity and all those things. It was fledgling at best. Like people had home computers to
Right.
type with,
But
like I'm cool with it. It's when you get to movies like, well, speaking of Seth Green, what was the hacking movie that they were all in? Or like there's another one like a perfect example of a movie that had no right misunderstanding computers to the degree that they did. If you've ever watched Swordfish, Hugh
Oh.
Jackman hacking to try and get, and it's like it's literally 8 monitors, and then he's just like literally slapping a keyboard around, drinking wine, and then it's like a Rubik's cube on the screen, and it's like pieces going, and he's like, no, it's not working, and then starts pacing, and that's gibberish. But like this one, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, he just kind of pulled up AOL, I guess.
Yeah, no.
oh
it's-
yeah, they didn't really lean into the computer angle as much as some of the other movies that we have watched. So that did, you know, it didn't bother me so much because I really think the only time we saw a computer screen was at that very beginning.
Yeah, when he was working while his son had a championship.
Yeah, except
Right.
he keeps
Cats in
complaining
the
about
cradle
how
and the silver spoon.
Yeah.
It's
He
just
keeps
like this whole
complaining.
thing.
He keeps complaining about how his dad was never there for him or something like that, and yet he's never there for his son.
Well, I mean, that's the whole. I think
I
that's,
know that's the whole
that's
thing.
the whole setup.
That
But
is
the
the
whole
whole
thing is
setup.
which I kind of get if they were like going to go into it more, like if this wasn't a Disney Channel thing, if the grandfather, like they grew up poor, so this guy is so possessed to make money for his family, kind of thing, that he's always business focused, but they don't have time to explore the grown-ups in Disney
Well,
because who
and
cares about them?
they also don't do a great job of articulating that, because like he refers to his dad as like a beach bum and all that stuff. And then like cutscene to him hanging out at his house, like when Johnny's trying to call him, or when not to get ahead of the storyline that we're describing, but
No,
like
you're
when him and Jet Jackson, sneak onto a military cargo ship inexplicably. They just hijack a plane.
Pre 9/11, pre 9/11.
Exactly. Well, but I'm not even talking
still.
about like the safety measures of that, but just more importantly, I mean, we've all seen other movies and things like that where we like look at cargo planes. There's like a couple of straps on the wall, but it's essentially a shell. Like, A, where were they hiding? And B, how did they not just get like rocked around? Not the point. The point being,
But yeah, like the oxygen, the other things
right,
like that.
all of
How
it,
did
the
they sneak
pressure,
onto the base?
How
the
did they got it?
deafening
Yeah,
noise.
the
Well, they were
security,
they were
got it.
on the. Well, I guess the base isn't really the residence is a different base from the actual military.
the
base.
Yeah, there would
Yes.
be extra security from wherever they snuck on. There's like
Not for two precocious scamps from Vermont.
Yeah, bunch of 12-year-olds, like
Yeah.
freaking.
It's like, listen, do you have clearance? I was like, I tell you what, I have. I stomped the landing when I snowboard, and like, please go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, like they don't even
but-
have an ID to get in. Like,
Right. But to the point about the dad being a beach bum, they show multiple scenes of his home, him lying in a hammock, him tossing the net. I assume he was crabbing, although I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
Are
don't know
there
what he's
crabs
doing.
that
I don't
close
think it's-
inland in Hawaii? What is he catching then?
I don't know. I didn't think it was crabs, but I mean, it could be. I don't know.
I don't know.
have
It's
no
something in that shallow water. I've never been. I don't actually know. But like his home looks nice. It looks cozy. I looked to Vanessa and I was like, I mean, yeah, why wouldn't you want to move to Vermont when you're bored out of your skull living in paradise or something like that? But like, what beach bum? He looks like he has a fantastic house. Yeah, he has a great home.
He has a championship. He's like the best of what he does.
Yeah, but that was the whole thing, was that his dad at the beginning was telling Johnny that it was not.
Well, he said something like a salary. Like he's like, look
Yeah,
up
it
professional
was-
surfer salaries, and he's like,
Oh yeah.
only $30,000 a year, not that much. And I was like, I
Back in
was about to say,
1999,
do I
wasn't it?
misremember the 90s? Like, I'm not saying
That's
you're
a
out
lot
there,
of
like-
money. Wait, I'm looking at it up.
Yeah, I don't know exactly
like
what
was a
seemed
median
fine.
salary in 1999? Just nationally, or like
'Cause
whatever.
I feel like that
'Cause
was
that's-
I feel like that was entry level when I graduated college.
Same.
Almost. Yeah.
It's
So
still entry level for some people, honestly.
right. Yeah.
well,
Just
but
looking at some job
no.
on
Well, we can
Indeed.
we can all agree that it's a brutal
By
paycheck, and
living
like I think
standards.
by living standards, like you're beneath the poverty line here.
It's
like-
$54,000 in today's money, which
Okay.
is not bad.
Well, it's not great. Okay, so it's not
But
great in Hawaii.
Hawaii
I know because
cost
Hawaii
of
is expensive. However, though, again,
A
to Alex's
far
point,
cry from calling him a dead.
yeah,
beat,
like
though.
to
Yeah.
Alex's point, I don't think that it's just. First of all, we don't know if he was supplementing that with anything. We don't know if those numbers were actually, how real that was, especially since he was a champion. And also, again, to Alex's point, his house looked very, very cozy and comfortable, and
Yeah.
it was right on the beach.
Also, he's clearly a very well-respected member of the community. Every time they were like out in Hawaii, everybody recognized him. So I have a hard time imagining that he couldn't monetize anything like that, or like do
Getting
any kind of
sponsorships?
consulting,
Yeah, sponsorship, right.
sponsorships, teaching,
Yeah.
literally anything. I mean, like it's an industry in and of itself. And even if not, like he has a very kind of like Taoist kind of, come as you are, passive, reflection type energy that, I mean, I'm not saying it's like profitable, but I am saying that usually comes along with a very, very strong community that usually like provides together. You know what I mean?
I have to think that maybe he's just the dad is just
Hyper type
well,
A.
No, type A, but also maybe
jealous
Are you
that-
kidding me?
That his
Well, no,
wife
He has
likes
to hand his
father
wife a
better.
napkin every time he sees him because
No,
she's drooling.
No, because jealous of the fact that they say later
That's
on
me.
that he was not.
Sorry.
They say later on that Pete, the dad, was not good at surfing, and he just
I don't think they
stopped
ever
and
said that he was not good
Yes,
at it.
they
No,
did.
they just said he
They
quit.
said he didn't like
Well,
it.
He didn't.
didn't
Yeah,
like
he
it
like
and
gave
quit.
up
He
on
stopped.
it.
But I think that was probably because he was not good. What?
Just
With
the
Iro's
cat.
in frame.
The cat.
Iro's in frame.
Iro's just face just started peeking. I was like, what? But I was just thinking, okay, so this is how grown up I'm thinking now is like the kid is the best at surfing. He could get a good scholarship, get into a good school because they're always looking for something unique. So and
Yeah.
then he could get a
Right.
good job from that. I'm just like thinking like that. But I'm like,
But
no.
it's also not about just the job. It's about what makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
And I mean,
and if your
but
kid's a champion, especially and just a happy
yeah,
kid,
and he that's the thing. It's not like it never seemed like he was unhappy in Hawaii. It was just this
he
dad
wasn't
has
getting in
this-
trouble or
Yeah.
anything.
Oh,
He
I
wasn't
mean,
doing
and
anything bad.
no, and he was obsessively into an athletic sport that he was good at. Like there was no downside. Like if you had his friend Jake, who is just prophetically doomsaying every left turn, then like I understand maybe pulling him out of stressful situations, but Jake was the one who's like,
Yeah.
oh man, that wave's gonna
Yeah,
crush him.
he's done.
And
Make it
everyone's like,
worse.
shut up, Jake.
Yeah, I mean the whole movie is just shut up, Jake. But like I tell you, I channel that energy every single day. Where I'm just stating the obvious and being told to be quiet.
But this is just, it was just a fun movie and had like, especially as a kid, you're like, oh, it's Hawaii. Oh, it's the mountains. It's so cool to see these different locations kind of thing.
Except it did just make me really wonder why anyone ever moves out of Hawaii once you get to Hawaii.
I mean, Vermont is beautiful.
Yes, it's a different kind
Vanessa,
of beautiful.
You moved
but,
out of Florida.
Yeah, I know, but I regretted it for a very, very, very long time.
My sister's like, you guys have the humidity and the cold. Yay.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get
here? Oh,
the
yeah, absolutely.
Best of both worlds.
Yep. Yeah.
Sometimes on the same day. And let me tell you, that's miserable because it's like balmy when you're wearing a coat and you're like, well, I have to take the coat off. And then you're damp and it's freezing outside. So we're having a great time.
But yeah, like once you get to, I don't know, it wasn't just the fact, because yeah, Vermont is beautiful and the mountains and all of that.
Really
So that
show
was
much
really
of
nice.
the beauty of Vermont, though, aside from
Well,
like just being the mountain.
Right, the snow and everything. But it was more so just the stereotype of these, the preppy East Coast boring, kind of situation, which I mean is
not invalid.
True
not
for,
invalid. Just a little bit. It's low hanging fruit.
Yeah. I mean, they do this also in like Legally Blonde, where they do West Coast versus East Coast.
Well, it's the whole Ivy
Yeah.
City, or Ivy League type crowd. That whole thing, where just it's like, good Lord, how many sweaters do you own?
Vanessa, we saw this with the zombie movie too, with the humans and the zombies coming in.
Were the zombies the
Alex-
preppies, or were the humans the preppies?
Well,
The
it
humans
was
were
more
the
like,
preppies.
yeah, it was more like punk versus preppy.
Why didn't you tell me?
Because you still wouldn't.
For all
like
you
the
wonderful
movie.
listeners out there, I'm also very much into punk. So
but it's Disney Channel punk.
I mean, but at least
Disney
with that,
Channel punk is better than no punk at all.
At least with that part, everything was colorful. It made it seem like things were at least a little brighter and more fun in both worlds. Whereas this was just everyone is the same and must be the same in the uniform. I don't know.
Yeah, what's the phrase? Deviations from the norm will be punished, exploitable. So I don't remember what exactly, but it just kind of explains why like everybody likes homogeneity so much more, unless that one variation or that stray from the norm is something that's able to bring in more profits, and then it is exploited extensively.
Yeah,
but this wasn't one of those situations. They didn't realize what they had in Johnny.
I know.
But so this is my question. Do you both think that Johnny Tsunami aged okay? Do you think this is like still like a solid movie?
I mean, if we're willing to acknowledge the racial undertones of like that whole dynamic in the prep school, I think overall the way that the story flows and how it ultimately results in some degree of unity, but it's not exactly like Brett got up and like shook his hand or anything like that. Some of the kids from Skyline came over and congratulated him, like Brett's kind of like, geeky sidekick one. Yeah, he's like lackey. He came over, he's like, wow, look at you won, and all that stuff. I think parts of it aged pretty well. I think kind of being detached or not really realizing how negatively you're impacting your child is still a relatable story.
Yeah.
I think all of it kind of ages out pretty well.
I think it has a good pace, unlike some of the other 90s stuff Vanessa and I have watched so far.
Mhm.
Like,
I
I feel
got
like
to
a
see
kid.
I got to see the first half of what was the one
Lucky
from
Dog?
Mike Seaver?
Oh,
Yeah, Lucky Dog.
You lucky
Oh
dog.
my god. Oh man,
That did not pace well.
No, that one aged like wet newspaper.
But I feel like this would keep a kid engaged, even like a current kid. They would still watch it and be interested, and there's still some fun like surfing tricks and
Yeah, I
skiing and
enjoyed
snowboarding
it.
action.
I mean, just as as a 36-year-old person, like I enjoyed it.
Not to mention, it's never too early to introduce a child to third wave ska. So
Yeah, he was really enjoying the music.
Okay, I was shocked. They had like multiple fastball songs in there that
Mhm.
again unlocked a memory from the 90s for
Yep.
me, because I feel like Disney Channel would only use their own people to record music and happen in the background.
Yeah, that was,
So-
you know what? Now that you're saying that, I didn't get because there's been quite a few of them where it's just like this goofy music in the background that I can't stand. And I didn't really notice that in this one. I mean, there might have been in maybe some of this, but I didn't notice it if it was. And they mostly just had, real songs.
yeah, it was
That
like
were- yeah.
actual popular songs from like the late 90s, which had that kind of like, nobody's saying stoner, but there's definitely a stoner energy to like the snowboarder crowd and like all that stuff, which I can believe snowboarders in the 90s listening to Real Big Fish or something like that. Also, we didn't even talk about the big plot twist, the big reveal at the end of the snowboarder and ski, chalet owners being brothers, and that this whole division and culture war or whatever that's been going on this whole time has lasted like 10 years. I mean, I'm sure that the rivalry between urchins and skies, even though maybe not by those names, had superseded 10 years. But apparently this whole, you have one side of the mountain, I have the other side of the mountain, was only 10 years. And I think, what did you say, Vanessa? It was because of one of their grandpa died, and then Vanessa said they were parents.
They
opposite split up.
Opposite Parent Trap.
Yes, their parents split up, and then for some reason their parents decided to send them to separate schools.
And one of them stayed with their mom, one of them stayed with their dad.
The youngest one, girls.
But they didn't even say
I'm
that.
getting it confused now.
But they didn't even say that. They didn't even say that like we split up. It was their parents.
No, they did.
They
the
did.
Parents split up and said one of us went like.
Yeah, no. But they said
maybe
our parents
it was
split up, and one of us went to this school, and one of us went to the other school. But they didn't say like what the background of that situation was.
Also, what was the split up? They don't live with each other, but they're still in the same neighborhood, but like enough of not the same neighborhood that the kids go to different schools.
Well, but the other,
and then
like
one of them can afford private school. Then
that's what I'm saying. Like Skyline is a private school, so it's not like they're like separated by.
They never even said it was a money issue. I mean, they owned a mountain, for God's sakes. I can't imagine that they would have been.
Is like if it's a private school, you can go anywhere. You don't have to be like in a county district.
Yes.
So that just means that one of the parents is so vindictive. They're like, I'm not giving you any money. I'm not giving you enough child support to send the other kid to private school.
Apparently one of them just really did not like one of their kids.
I think what this really indicates is that there was a screenwriter meeting that was like very last minute. They're like, we don't need it to make sense. We just need to get it to film and just can this thing. And there was just no follow through on the logic of that kind of premise.
Also, the fact that Johnny, who has been snowboarding for like a few weeks, beats a kid who's been skiing like his entire life.
That's yes. So that I mean, obviously that was a very big suspension of disbelief sort of situation.
I will acknowledge in playing sports with some family members and some friends of mine that I went to school with, and also later on in the restaurant industry, knowing some chefs and some bartenders that I've worked with, there are some people that if you have a baseline skill set in some type of activity or something like in this being athletics or in the others being like something within a particular industry, some people are very, very hyper focused and obsessively talented that they can pick it up. to that degree. And like, there's no real clear timeline. We don't know how long they've been
Oh,
there.
it's only been a couple of months. At
Okay,
the
but
very
here's
most.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Somebody who is already regarded as a prolific generational surfer has a certain degree of athleticism to them.
Okay.
And then when he got there, he literally, I mean, if you kind of
The
extrapolate from
second
what we're watching on
day,
the screen,
really?
I'm just saying,
No,
like,
he
he
fell
spent
down a lot.
he fell down a lot, but he
But-
spent every single
Okay,
moment of free
okay,
time
I get
snowboarding.
that. Okay, I understand that, and I agree with you to a certain extent. But the jumps that he was pulling,
Well,
no way.
Vanessa, it's easier when you're 5 feet taller and a different skin color. Like, it all smooths out. All right.
That was like a 6-foot white man.
Absolutely.
And they would do the ADR, so you would hear the kid's voice.
Yeah.
And be like, I'm like, that voice is not coming from that body.
I feel like they had like some miking issues during the filming of the movie, because I feel like there's a few scenes like when he first meets Sam, aka Jet Jackson, on the bus, and they're talking, like that whole thing sounded like taped over, like the dialogue. So I don't know if there was like just issues with miking.
They didn't have enough money for the sound guys after paying all the stunt people.
Well, who do you think were the sound guys? It was the stunt people holding the
Yeah.
boom mics.
It was the same with like a lot of the outside scenes, like with Kirsten Storm, when she's like, when Johnny pretty much goads her and be like, well, you can't snowboard. It's too hard for you, kind of thing. And she just secretly goes and snowboards because she was acting like, she's like, we don't snowboard. We don't. We ski. And he's like, why?
Yeah.
And she can't give them a reason. It's only been 10 years. It's been 10 years. She's acting like this has been like a centuries long feud.
I mean, but she's only 13, so like it is her entire life.
That is true.
What I want to kind of get more worked up about is that they're all on this very smooth, easy path after like a day of snowboarding, and it's like, oh man, wasn't that fun? See, we're not so different after all, bridging worlds and all that stuff. And she's like, we could do something harder. And they're like, no, I don't think we should do that. And she's like, I think so. And then just literally goes off of a cliff. And then
what the hell
everybody's
is
mad
the
at
cliff
Johnny.
doing there?
Yeah, she's like,
No one.
I think we can do this. And she just dies. They're like, what the hell?
There's just this tiny sign that's like cliff. There's nothing else there. I was like, just a legit cliff, and the child just goes off of it, and then Sam is like, "Oh, I'll help her," and then
It's
he
Wile E.
goes off of
Coyote
it.
when the cliff just gives out under him.
Just yeah, it's a lot of action for a Disney Channel movie, honestly.
Right.
Like,
Well, and then at the end of it all, it's like everybody's pissed off at Johnny again. And he's like,
Yeah.
what did I do? He was like, how could you do that? What are you referring to? Finding the snow patrol guy that saved their lives? Or like what happened? Because we explicitly told her not to do that. And then she was like, I'm diving.
and then
Yeah.
and I love his mom is like, after he's like, am I still grounded? And she's like, I think you suffered enough.
Yeah.
I was like, this mom,
I'm like, yeah, she gets it.
she's the only thing holding this family together,
Yeah.
honestly.
Oh, absolutely. She's a champion.
Because I swear, like, I bet the father and grandfather would not talk at all if she didn't exist.
Yeah, another one of my favorite moments was when they leave on the military plane or whatever for Hawaii, and then leave the note with their parents, and they're reading it, and the dad's like, "I can't believe they would do this," and she's like, "I can." Like, you're being a dick.
also, when Grandpa Tsunami comes back and Pete Tsunami's like, it would have been fine if you just put them on a plane. And I was like, does no one else here realize like the actual fly time from Hawaii to Vermont? Like, this is a very long plane, and these children have shown
they're
there's
definitely
no
gonna
trust.
have a transfer somewhere.
Yeah, they're
Well,
gonna
but
have it's not a nonstop flight. If it was a
Right.
nonstop flight, that's something. Like, I flew when I was 12 alone, but like that was a nonstop, and I had another family member like in New York waiting for me.
Right, but we've
yeah.
already established these kids are flight risks. Like
Yeah,
what's your
exactly.
game plan here? This is that. If anything, that's the most responsible thing he could have done. And since it was a surprise, he clearly didn't ask you to pay for it. So, like, how about a little gratitude for Grandpa being out of grand and him being a beach bum? So that must have really hurt in your mind, Mr. Computer Boy.
You're thinking, if you think about it, they most likely stopped in LA. And of course those kids would love LA beaches. And just be
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
maybe we'll just stay in Cali.
See, that's what we need. We need Johnny Tsunami 1.5, where we find out what happened in the 4-hour layover in Santa Barbara.
There is a sequel.
Oh yeah. I'm ready.
Johnny.
It is not as good as the first one, but I am in.
Yeah. But I feel like this is like when I think DCOM, this is one of the movies that just comes to mind.
Absolutely. It's Johnny Tsunami, it's Brink, it's a lot of the sports ones, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of the sports.
A lot of
popular.
like Xenon, especially I think for Vanessa and I, the girls.
Right.
Xenon,
well, I love Xenon. I mean, Zetas Lapidus. It was a fantastic transformational
boom,
movie.
boom, boom.
Make my heart
go, boop, boop, boop.
Supernova girl.
So what do you think the Rotten Tomatoes score was?
70%.
Oh, don't look, baby. You can.
I have to guess.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not 200%, then what are we even doing here?
70%, 200%, 62%.
62%?
Yeah, which seems to be pretty. I feel like par for the course.
Is
for
that
a
the
lot
fan
of
score? Or
it's the fan score.
That's the fan score?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's also the fact that people, it's people taking the time. Yeah. People taking the time to rate it, which I would figure would be mostly fans, but I guess people are like, maybe they come back to it and it's not as good as they remember, but like,
I guess
you have to have,
trolls.
you have to have expectations.
So there are 2 critic reviews and they enjoy it. But as far as the audience review, I don't get it. I feel like a lot of these people, I feel like they're just expecting far too much from it.
We saw that a lot with the direct to home movies of the animated sequels. It's like, they have a much smaller budget and time frame. It's not going to be like the original.
Whoa. Okay, I'm not even going to read some of these. Some of these people are just
the one star reviews are just spiteful.
Yeah.
That's just
wow.
They're definitely people who just need a place to comment and they're like, sure, Rotten Tomatoes, that sounds great.
Hold on. I want to read one. Right. This is from May 12th, 2012. The account, the person who wrote it, the name isn't listed, but they are noted as being a super reviewer, which I don't spend a lot of time on Rotten Tomatoes, so I didn't know that was a thing. It's a 1-star review. It's a one sentence description. Okay, let's be honest here, it's your own fault for watching a movie. I'm watching a film called, quote, Johnny Tsunami. That's the review. There's no commentary. There's just a presumption of dissatisfaction. It's beautiful.
Okay, I have one 3-star review. I just want to read. I just went to Rotten Tomatoes. It says, one of the best Disney Channel movies. 3 stars.
3 stars. Okay, so I guess they don't really have a good opinion of Disney Channel movies because if 3 stars is one of the best, then yep. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people on Rotten Tomatoes with these DCOM movies are just killing time because they have nothing else to do.
Yeah, I don't know.
That makes me sad though. I feel like this movie in general just deserved more. Again, I thought that really just the fact that even the music was such a higher level made it like just.
I can't tell you how happy people in the ska community are going to be. You've said such glowing things about the genre.
God, I had fastball like albums that I put in like my CD changer growing up. Like it was so weird to hear this music. I'm gonna have to put some stuff on a playlist. Just the Johnny Tsunami soundtrack.
I guarantee that playlist already exists on Spotify.
Yeah, probably.
Also, we're all in agreement, right? The snowboarding brother that owns the mountain, he absolutely, when everybody turns 16, he's like, okay, happy birthday. Like, I just so you know, I also sell weed. Like he definitely sells weed to everybody.
That guy was like
urchins and skies equally.
Yes.
He's like, I got some sweet nectar to wax a board or something like that. And he's like, what's haps? And he knew who Johnny Tsunami was.
Right.
And he just gives like little Johnny, whatever, because he's the grandson.
He definitely would not have done that.
Now, see, here's the thing. At the beginning of the movie, because I obviously had seen this multiple times growing up, but I hadn't watched it in a long time. At the beginning, I was like, that's ridiculous. He wouldn't just give stuff away. But then you get to the part of the end of the movie where he's like, oh, he owns the mountain. Yeah, he can give away whatever he wants.
That's true.
The man's stoned out of his mind, and he has more money than God, probably. I mean, at this point, you own a mountain in Vermont? Are you kidding me? You print it.
Yeah.
So he's like,
Yeah,
whatever.
that makes
have this
sense.
stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think
Plus,
about that. Yeah,
it's a mild sponsorship too. It's like everybody's like, hey man, this guy's apparently really good at the sport. Where'd you get all that stuff? He's like, oh, it's my weed guy who also owns this mountain over here. Like,
he needs to give his brother some of that because that guy needs to calm down.
He probably tried.
He needs to give his brother some Xanny bars. His brother is wound tight.
But Alex, your first waffle.
My first waffle. First time, long time. Yeah, no. Thought it'd be fun. It's a good one. It's a good one to jump in on. It's one of my
classic.
One of my cherished ones. I will also, I think Vanessa and I talked about it a little bit, but there's a handful of other ones like Don't Look Under the Bed and Under Wraps. And
they made a remake of Under Wraps.
They made a remake?
They made a remake of Under Wraps?
A year ago. Yeah. A first DCOM remake.
Am I like, are we happy with this? Am I deeply
I don't know.
offended? I know I'm deeply offended first and foremost.
Yeah, because it means we're old.
Oh, I'm offended because they thought they had to remake the whole
why would you have to remake it?
I've made peace with the fact that I'm old.
I feel like we need to watch both of them this Halloween, and
I'm ready for it.
Compare, contrast, figure out like what the difference is. But like
my mom's in love with a vampire. Is that a DCOM too?
My mom's got a date with a vampire.
Yo,
yeah.
Mr. Sheffield from freaking The Nanny. I loved that movie. That movie was hilarious. He is the weakest. Yes, and Hilda from
Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and that was directed by the same director of Johnny Tsunami.
Oh,
no wonder I love it.
Yeah.
Yep, it's the same guy.
It's fantastic.
He did also like My Stepsister is an Alien.
Oh yeah. That one was okay. Did you guys do Can of Worms?
We haven't done a lot yet. This is
Can of Worms is a weird one. That one's really fun.
There's some really weird early 90s ones, especially.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Lots to look forward to.
Yeah.
Candace, where can they find us?
They can find us at thegeekywaffle.com, geeky_waffle on Twitter, The Geeky Waffle everywhere else, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the socials. We're there.
Amazing. Well, thanks for joining us. I am Vanessa.
I'm Candace.
And I'm Alex.
And we hope you have a happily ever after until you're whisked away from paradise into a bleak, awful New England town where you have to learn to snowboard.
Stomp the landing, brah.